Welcome to the Safety Edge podcast, where safety leaders sharpen their edge. I'm Charles Edgar, your safety leadership coach, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this very first episode of the podcast. In this podcast, we explore the real dilemmas safety leaders face on the site and in the workplace, not textbook examples, not perfect scenarios, but those challenging, uncomfortable human moments when there's no obvious right answer and the pressure is real. In each episode, we unpack one real-world dilemma safety leaders face and explore how adopting a coaching mindset can make the difference. Not by controlling people, but by sharpening how we think, listen, and lead. Now let's start with a dilemma almost every safety leader will recognize. A conflict of urgency versus good judgment. When production is behind and safety appears to be in the way. Imagine this. A critical job is already behind schedule. The supervisor is under pressure. Management is calling. The client wants updates. And everyone knows delays cost money. You are the safety leader on site. As work continues, you notice something subtle but important. A key control in the permit to work process is being rushed. Not skipped, not ignored, but treated like a mere formality. The paperwork appears to be complete. The signatures are there, but the conversation is thin, barely existent. People are just nodding, not questioning anything, regardless of how it all sounds. You sense it. Steps are being shortened. Assumptions are creeping in. The focus has shifted from thinking safely to finishing the job quickly. No one actually says safety doesn't matter, but their behavior tells a different story. And you feel that familiar tension. If you step in strongly, you risk being labeled as the one who stops work. If you escalate, you may damage the fragile trust you had with the supervisor. If you say nothing, you risk normalizing the drift and silently accepting the risk, further reinforcing this flawed approach to safe work planning and execution. Now you are in a dilemma. Now you are standing on the edge and it feels lonely, really lonely. Why is this a true leadership dilemma? The situation isn't about ignorance. The team knows the rules. The supervisor is experienced. The controls exist. So what's really happening? This is what pressure does when you are under time and performance stress. Focus narrows, shortcuts begin to feel reasonable, and compliance replaces rational thinking. This isn't bad behavior, it's just human behavior. And this is where safety leadership becomes truly difficult, because the challenge isn't technical, it's relational. It's about influence, trust, and judgment in moments that don't necessarily announce themselves as critical. So what do most safety leaders do in moments like this? There are 4 common reactions. First, we quote the procedure. That might get you some level of compliance, but often at the cost of engagement. Second, we escalate too quickly. That may solve today's issues, but tomorrow people may resort to finding a way to work around you. Third, we take control. This may provide short-term clarity, but at the risk of long-term dependency, where they will tend to rely on safety for all solutions, and you don't want that. And fourth, you say nothing, because you don't want to be in that difficult position, to be seen as a clog in their wheel, and slowly the drift becomes normalized. None of these options builds ownership, thinking, or trust. So what's the alternative? Now let's see it from the coaching lens. This is where coaching mindset changes the game. Coaching is not about being passive, and it's not about pretending pressure doesn't exist. It's about creating awareness under pressure. Instead of jumping in with answers, we slow the moment, just enough to invite thinking. So imagine you step aside with the supervisor and ask, what's making this job feel really urgent right now? At first, the response is practical. The supervisor says,
honestly, we are already behind. Management wants this finished today, and the crew is frustrated.
That answer matters. Because now, the pressure is named, not hidden. You're not arguing with it. You're acknowledging it. Then you follow up with a second question. Under this pressure, what step in the process protects us the most if something goes wrong? Now there's a pause. You can almost see the supervisor thinking. And he responds slowly.
Well, it's the pre-task discussion. That's where we usually catch the things we miss.
Nothing changed procedurally, but awareness just shifted. The risk is visible again. You continue. What are we assuming right now that might not be true? This one lands differently. The supervisor responds,
we are assuming the conditions haven't changed since morning, and, most probably sure that everyone is still clear on the boundaries.
Now the conversation has changed from speed to the quality of understanding. And finally, you ask a question that brings accountability forward. If something did go wrong later, what decision in this moment would we most confidently say that we took? Now the tone changes completely. The supervisor is quiet, and then he responds,
I guess we would like to say confidently that we didn't rush through the process, and that we actually thought it through and discussed all the plans and controls with the team.
At this point, something important has happened. You didn't quote a rule. You didn't threaten to stop the job. You didn't take control. You helped the supervisor arrive at their own safety decision. They may still pause the job. They may reinforce the discussions. They may adjust the plan. But now, it's their own decision, and ownership has been restored. Why this approach works? This approach works because when pressure is high, people don't need more rules. They need space to think. And coaching questions help to slow escalation, surface hidden assumptions, and reconnect people with purpose. This is the edge. That's how safety leadership becomes sustainable, even when production is behind. Here's the key insight for this episode. Safety leadership is not about stopping work. It's about slowing thinking when pressure is highest. The goal isn't perfect compliance. The goal is to reach a stage of conscious choice. Because unmanaged pressure is one of the greatest risks in any operation. As we close, let's reflect on this. Where in your workplace are people complying but no longer really thinking? And as a safety leader, when you notice that moment, do you step in with control or with curiosity? That moment matters more than it seems, because control may feel decisive, but it often shuts down learning. Curiosity, on the other hand, keeps people engaged, surfaces what is really happening, and turns tension into insight. When leaders choose curiosity, they do more than just fixing the immediate issues. They strengthen trust, invite honesty, and create the conditions where risk can be understood before it turns into harm. The question is not whether you act, but how you act. Control closes the conversation, while curiosity opens it up. That there is the edge. If today's episode gave you clarity, please leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced a dilemma like this? How did you handle it at the time? And now with the insight from this episode, how would you approach it differently? While here, make sure to subscribe and follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to invite a friend or colleague. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Safety Edge podcast. I'm Charles Edgar, your safety leadership coach. And until next time, keep leading, keep learning, and keep sharpening your edge. Bye for now.
Brought to you by the Safety Edge platform, an independent leadership and safety learning platform, building leadership capacity, one conversation at a time. Find us wherever you get your podcasts